All right, YouTube. Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. We're talking Auburn football. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speak Sports Auburn. And as always, it's great to be in Auburn Tiger War Eagle Sunday afternoon. And I always like to give a recap on Auburn's previous game the day after. Almost, it's about to be 2 days after because I'm doing this thing super late. I had a very interesting weekend to where, one, I wasn't able to watch the game. Two, I was just kind of displaced here on Sunday, but I still wanted to deliver this content to you today. Just keep the subscribers coming. We're over 3,000 at this point, and I definitely appreciate that. So as we talk about what we saw against Ole Miss, I like to do this day after because it gives all the emotions a little time to kind of calm down. The initial shock or the initial, exuberance or positivity, whatever, and negativity, if you will, and really give us a very objective look at where Auburn is headed into a game against a very talented LSU team. Now, a lot of people may look at this LSU team and say, oh, man, they lost to Mississippi State. They're the defending national champions. But what a lot of folks don't realize, they lost a good portion of their offensive production, including Joe Burrow and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jamar Chase. That's some big shoes to fill. So they're probably going to be looking at a true freshman quarterback to make his first appearance on the road, ironically in Jordan-Hare Stadium, which is typically one of the more hostile environments in the SEC. But social distancing might be able to neutralize his anxiety coming into this football game, especially Auburn and LSU are regulars at that 3:30 game on CBS. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this particular game turns out. So what I want to talk about is a couple of things that we learned about Auburn after the Ole Miss game. Number one, what we learned is Bo Nix does not need to throw the ball more than 30 times. Okay. Bo Nix threw 77% of his passes, 270-something yards, a lot more efficient, a lot more effective. If you look at the week before, he threw for over 40 yards. He threw the ball over 40 times with the same result. So if we can keep that thing under 30 attempts, especially for a quarterback like Bo Nix, with where he is in his career right now, not necessarily comfortable with the offensive line, still trying to piece together what his role ultimately as a leader on this offense will be, 25 to 30 attempts should be sufficient. Another thing we found out is that Auburn is really struggling personnel-wise on the offensive line. Just found out that Brandon Council, the transfer from Akron, will be out for the season with a leg injury. Was playing right guard, and right guard or left guard is a very pivotal position. They're asked to pull a lot. They're asked to use their legs a lot. They're asked to make that first step to the left or to the right. And they have to be very strong upper body wise, as do all the linemen have to be. But they tend to have to be the more athletic linemen out there. He will be out with a leg injury. We're going to be looking at the possibility of Keandre Jones taking his place. Now, if a lot of you guys remember, Keandre Jones was in the 2019 recruiting class. He's actually a high school teammate of Tank Bigsby. So, of course, they will have that familiarity there, but doesn't have a lot of really that much Power 5 experience. So it's going to be interesting. I want you guys to take a look at this to see how this turns out. Now, here's another thing we found out about the offensive line, is that they run block pretty good. It's the passing blocking, especially against blitz packages, where the line gets real shaky. And that's very characteristic of an inexperienced offensive line. So we will see that down the stretch. And the last thing we saw in this game is that, yes, Tank Bigsby is absolutely a beast. Had over 100 yards again, but he has some help. He actually has, now that Shaun Shivers is back, and now that DJ Williams, even though he's kind of hobbling around a little bit, but DJ Williams, Shaun Shivers, and Tank Bigsby could be the trio that could help Auburn down the stretch. I think best case scenario at this point, Auburn wins against, we're just going to just say hypothetically speaking, because right now, because of the chain of events, LSU beating South Carolina 52-24, Auburn struggling, in an apparent struggle with Ole Miss on the road, 35-28. ESPN actually reversed this thing. They're giving now LSU a 52% chance to win and Auburn a 47% chance to win. So LSU comes into this game, according to the ESPN FPI, as the favorites. But let's just say if Auburn is able to pull this game off, go into the bye week with a 4-2 record, considering everything involved, Auburn looks like, just from the proximity standpoint, outside looking in, looks like they could run the table all the way to Alabama. Now, just looking at it, just from what we normally look at trajectory-wise, in any given season, Auburn is usually not going to be a favorite against Alabama, but we know anything can happen. Of course, Auburn does not play well in Tuscaloosa, and then Auburn has the game against Texas A&M at home in an uncharacteristic time of the year in, I think it's November, December. Either way, it's just uncharacteristic. This whole season has been uncharacteristic. So let me know what you think about this video. What are your 3 things that you saw in this game against Ole Miss that you think can carry over positively or even negatively in the LSU game? All right, guys, go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.